What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Dead on Dave with another Creator's Corner, number 4 to be exact. And we got a special one today because I got my good friend, not only a video creator of the top most quality, but a really good friend, the one, the only, the incomparable Tommy C. What's going on, man?
Pootie Pie's got nothing on me.
Pootie Pie ain't got nothing on you. That's right. That's right. What's going on, man? Thanks for coming on the show, man. I know this is not your normal bag, and I appreciate you helping me out here and coming on.
No, it's just this really has more to do with my ego. The fact that anybody's willing to interview somebody with 600 subs strokes it and makes it important. So don't think for a second this is about you. It's about me.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I'm a sociopath.
Yeah.
But Dr. Ryan Lampert said so. Yeah, sure. I definitely want to talk about my art with the likes of you, Dave, and expose it to many people as possible.
Yeah.
So what's happening?
Well, you know, I found this was very poetic to have you on, and part of me wanted to have you on a little later when the show got more traction. Part of me wanted to have you on first because I always had ideas of what I wanted to do and talk and do podcasts, but I never had the drive to do it until I met you. You know, you and I started Shot from the Point together, basically. I mean, I jumped in right from the jump with you, and you kind of got my fires burning for everything. So a lot of this is because of the spark that Tommy C ignited.
Well, how smart are you to get involved with a guy doing podcasts that doesn't listen to other people's podcasts? It's kind of... Yeah.
It was quite funny because neither one of us knew what we were doing.
No, I think that's it. I mean, I grew up listening to radio. I was one of those weird guys that enjoyed. It's almost like you know, when I watch like things like The Christmas Story and I see people gathering around the evening radio rather tthan the television. I was more interested in radio from day one. And yeah, I'm on YouTube, but obviously. I am more radio oriented. I always loved the sort of, well, I hate talking like this, but I'll do it. I think radio creates sort of an imagination, sort of a theater in your mind.
No, it does.
And I've always been much more interested in that. Now, the reason I went to YouTube is I sort of knew how to use it at the time. I knew how to upload a video. And I thought that I just didn't want to waste the time or really be all that interested. I wasn't all that interested in, getting involved in iTunes and things of that nature. I didn't know what the current way to do things as far as promoting your podcast. All I saw is I know how to upload video to YouTube, and it's one of the biggest search engines in the world, and that seemed like a good idea.
Path of least resistance type.
Yeah, it seemed like that, and it was also really a way that I could spread it on Facebook because I really started it on a lark, and I really didn't get really serious about it until a year later. If you want to call what I do serious, I thought that I just wanted to do it to hear my own voice and say that I did a radio show. I had no long-term plans. In fact, the year after the 2012 playoffs, I just might have moved on to another thing, but then I didn't realize how much I missed it. And how much I enjoyed it, and now it's a big part of my life.
And it's grown into something I think neither one of us really thought that at the time that it was going to.
I mean, even on the low level of YouTube that we still have managed to kind of through networking and reaching out to people with similar interests, we've managed to sort of create a small but sort of a dedicated and loyal following.
Yeah. We created a community. We
created a community, and like I said, I didn't know what I was doing, and I wasn't really interested in, doing sort of sports talk, which makes me insane to listen to people talk. It's strange, and just how politically correct it is, and how controlled it is, and how people get in these ridiculous, serious arguments over athletes and stuff like that.
Is that how you created Tommy C? Is that what Tommy C is the basis of? Because he's kind of that line between who you really are and the talk radio douchebag that you loathe so much.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why you created that persona to use.
I don't think I got up and wrote that down, but I remember the first show that we did, And I remember thinking it was straight off the cuff. And I remember thinking to myself, well, look, I didn't go to communication school. I'm not college educated. Why am I trying to be in a community? And this happened like day one. Yeah. Why am I trying to imitate what those guys are doing? What do I know about? Well, I just got out of the Army at the time. Yeah. I know about, hanging out with guys and acting goofy and having fun. So I just sort of presented the party guy. Yeah. The guy, makes kind of a dirty jokes and stuff at a party and says outrageous things for laughs.
Kind of that off-kilter type guy.
Yeah,
that
that's right. Yeah, that was really the idea, and that's basically wanted to do, because, I mean, when I do behave in that way and I do go out in that manner, that's when I have the most fun. Yeah. So why should I try to be like guys on ESPN? Why should I even attempt to imitate something, a form of media that I don't particularly like? Yeah. And it just happened. I think when you go into YouTube, you really got to pick something. It's one thing, like Joe Cronin taught me, is like, you can't sit there and say, okay, I'm listening to Shot from the Point. What the hell, Shot from the Point? Yeah. But if it's hockey and people are interested in hockey, then they might become interested in, what you referred to as a persona. Yeah. And that's really, if I'm selling anything, that's it. I'm selling guy talk around a similar interest. Sure. I'm not. One of the things is, I think me and you started this. There are no experts, and there really isn't.
There's not. There's people who want to commentate, and there's people who are better at commentating than others.
Hockey, like a lot of other things, it's so subjective. Sure. As far as who's good, who's bad, what works. Most reporters, don't even know basic fundamentals of the game. A lot of them never even skated before, played competitively. I didn't do that, and neither did they. But yet they present this persona that they're, they actually could be behind the bench, even though they don't have any of these skills or experience. And I certainly wouldn't be claimed to be one of those persons too. So I thought, I'm going to make the anti sports personality. My whole sports thing is anti-sports shows.
Yeah, in a sense. I got a question for you. Why hockey? Is it because hockey is, at least critically thinking wise, the most ambiguous of the sports? Because when you think about it from a thinking aspect of it, because anybody can perceive hockey from many different avenues. Is that why you picked it, or is this a childhood thing that you wanted to bring in? Is just a passion that you decided to make more serious? Why hockey? You could have done a podcast on anything. Why hockey?
Well, when I decided to have a military career, and considering that I was shipped to Germany right away, where it makes it almost impossible to watch games and live anyway, and carry on, and they didn't have things like NHL Game Center when I was I couldn't watch a game when I came home. There was no real way for me to. There's no DVR that I could use. You just could catch a game on AFN. So I basically, if I couldn't be totally into it, I wasn't going to be interested. So I really put it down. But at one time, as far as league politics, things that were going around, trades, trends, and things like that, it was probably something that I was most knowledgeable about. Now, I don't even think that I'm back to that sort of obsessive hockey fan that I was in my teens and my 20s.
Because at one point, it was almost a religion for you.
Yes. In some way. That was mentioned to me by my father. I made a crack about religion.
And that made you sick when you heard that. I remember you telling me.
Tell the story, too. I made a crack about religion, being a wise-ass teenager. And my father looked at me and he says, "You have a religion. Don't act like you're above it." I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "What do you mean? We have those tickets in your hand. You're going to worship at the garden. Your Messiah, which is Marc Messier, which is interesting because Messier is the word for Messiah. So he obviously deliberately said that. A lot of people don't know that Messier is the French word for the Messiah.
That's quite a coincidence, isn't it?
Yeah, he says, while you might reject your religious background, you have definitely filled the void. And he walked away. And I could
drop the mic and left.
Yeah, pipe bomb. And there was very little I could do to. Well, first of all, he's my dad as a teenager. And he probably smacked my mouth if I got any wiser. But there was some truth into what he was saying. I did sort of replace one sort of ritual with another.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean I ran back to church, or I'm not a religious or spiritual person, but it did kind of show to me that even the most anti-religious, or the most people that think they're above people that believe in a higher power. I don't believe in a higher power, but I certainly don't think I'm above or better than people who do. I do believe that human beings will, whether they're religious or not, feel the human need for ritual.
Sure. You're absolutely right. I mean, we as a society, we strive for deeper meaning in things that most of the time have no deeper meanings. And sports is a great place for that. I mean, people love to place that on a pedestal.
No disrespect to atheists, but I always laugh when I see organized atheists.
Yeah.
And most of it has very non-religious political, undertones to it. And I listen to atheists that consider themselves intellectuals and put things out there, and I agree with 90% of what they say until they start kind of sniping or being snarky to those who do believe in a higher power.
Yeah.
Because your organization, your YouTube channel, your organization, your outrage is very similar to these sort of kooky religious outrage that I experienced, and what made me reject my religion in the first place, the religion I was born into in the first place. They're actually behaving like church ladies, and they don't even know it.
They don't even know.
I wanted to be an atheist because I wanted to drop out. I didn't
want to. Yeah, you don't want to replace it with something else.
People, they do feel they're like. I mean, I filled it with YouTube, so I think nobody is above ritual.
Sure.
I remember hearing that. Who was the guy that wrote the Satanic Bible? And he was in Rosemary's Baby. I can't remember.
Christ. Not Christ, but yeah.
No. He said he was involved with Marilyn Monroe. He's the head Satanist over there at the Church of Satan, California. I remember hearing somebody tell me. I wish I could remember his name. Anton LaVey.
Anton LaVey. That's right.
Yeah, Anton LaVey supposedly admitted that he truly wasn't a Satanist. That he sort of made the whole thing up. And then he says, well, if you don't believe in God or heaven or hell or the devil, like, why do you do it? He's like, people need ritual.
Sure.
And I think Anton LaVey, I don't think he was evil. I think he was more of a carny that found a bit. And just kind of practiced his ideology of selfishness.
Yeah.
And he did it under the banner of the evil one, Sure. And I think the whole thing was a big gag on everybody. I think Anton LaVey was trolling everybody. Now I don't know.
Is that kind of what Tommy C does?
Yes.
In some aspects. I mean, you draw off that because I think a lot of people who watch the show some people, not I think the core audience gets it, but I think there are some people who don't understand that Tommy C is a shtick. It is a bit. Tommy C is a caricature of yourself. And I don't think people get that. So where does the line of Tommy C and Tommy Callanan end? Where's that line? Where do you think that you begin and Tommy C ends?
No, because like you get a situation like yesterday where I was being a little more revealing about a political issue that I think is pretty serious, and my whole sort of language changed, and I became a little more vulnerable. I came not as well spoken and not as confident. So I don't know. I think what happens is it just kind of comes and goes. When I'm on, I'm on. Yeah. And I can be rude, obnoxious, and I like to think hysterical sometimes.
Sure.
As far as a line's concerned, I don't advocate hate speech. I don't hate anybody. Even some of my more harsher criticisms with dirty words aren't rooted with hate. So I think that's where the line is.
Yeah.
I think as far as being hateful, like I hate you, I wish you were dead, is the line. I guess exception of certain things, like recently Viktor Tikhonov died, who was essentially a child abuser, in my opinion, where he abused Russian athletes for almost like a 30-year period.
Yeah.
And he was connected to the Communist Party, and this is an evil regime of people that abused young boys into making them become athletes for a very sick regime. I didn't care when he died.
Yeah.
So maybe I crossed my own line there.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying like that's the right thing to do. But yeah, I mean,
no, but it's being real to who you are.
That was hateful.
And
But
it maybe
you got to really do something horrible like child molestation or murder to get that out of me.
Sure.
I wouldn't attack somebody that has a different viewpoint than me, and I wouldn't justify doing something like that. Like, you're the reason the world's terrible, and
right,
that's justification for absolutely everything.
As far as everyday life goes, though, I mean, obviously the characters that we portray in podcasting and YouTubing, they're not 100% us, and nor are we 100% them. I think for the average viewer, though, who might be trying to figure out just how much is this Tommy and how much of it is Tommy C, let's talk a percentage.
Well,
on a daily basis, how much...
I won't reveal that, and I'll tell you why.
I love that you won't reveal that.
No, that's up to you. That's up to you to figure out, and it also gives me a cop-out out when you call me.
The fact that you will not, I love that you won't reveal that. That is brilliant. That's a great answer.
Wrestling a comparison, I come in and out of kayfabe.
You want to keep that veil. You want to keep that veil.
I think that, I mean, Cronin's always on my case for coming out of kayfabe at all.
Yeah.
Which you can't always kind of stay in character, I suppose.
He's guilty of it too, though. He does the same thing.
I think it's less entertaining if I come out and just say, this is a certain amount of percentage, this is that. Yeah. It also, and I could use it as like a lot of comedians when they say horrible things, they cop out and say, well, I'm just a comic.
Jon Stewart. Jon Stewart's a prime example of that.
Yeah,
he does it all the time.
Throw a break because he has apologized in the past. But
yeah, he has. But Jon Stewart, what he likes to do is, and something we don't do, which I appreciate, is he will say some very outlandish things that he's trying to be 100% serious on, and then when he gets pressed on it, he can always hide behind, well, I'm a comic.
But
he did it on Crossfire. He did it on Crossfire, that famous interview.
I could defend Stewart on at least one example, and I'm not going to say he doesn't do that, but I can defend Stewart on one example. I thought it was interesting when he called Harry Truman a war criminal.
Yeah.
He came out the next day and said, ever say something really stupid, just kind of flew out of your mouth the heat of the moment? Well, that's what I did, and I generally believe him.
Well, sure.
And I do think comedians kind of fly. But, I mean, he's sort of doing what I'm doing. He's being Jon Stewart, and then he's being the hysterical anchor.
Yeah, that's why I used him as an example. I thought it was a good example.
I think that's kind of some kind of intellectual honesty to say, hey, look, that was a little bit over the top, and I didn't have all the facts. And I think a better example would be a guy like Bill Maher, who I wouldn't care, and I would defend his sort of comedic protection, so to speak. But he acts like he's offended by certain statements that other people make, and portrays these people that he disagrees with as what's wrong with society. And then when he makes an outrageous comment about a woman or something like that, he does hide behind comedy, apologetically. So I think that's a testament to his character, and defend Jon Stewart.
Yeah.
I think Jon Stewart, his character shows that he can say, you know what, I'm not always right.
Yeah.
And I make mistakes, and I'm a human being, whereas I think Bill Maher is more of an elitist.
Let's turn back the clock for a moment. Let's go back a little bit in time, just a little bit here. Let's go on the journey from you started out as a kid in New Jersey.
Correct.
And then you joined the Army. How did you get from the path of Jersey to the Army to staying in Germany? Let's talk a little bit about the personal side of Tommy for a moment.
Yeah, here we go.
Just a little bit. Let's open up the book a little bit, shall we?
I was born in central New Jersey, and I was actually the first neighborhood I lived in, or the one I remember the most, was an Italian community called Kenilworth. Famous for being the home of Sam the plumber DeCavalcante, who was the head of the New Jersey crime family, the DeCavalcante crime family, that which I'm very proud of.
Yeah, yes, the slick back hair is indicative of that.
Maybe. Of course, I'm not of Italian descent. No. I'm of English.
Very Irish.
Yeah, I'm English and Irish descent. And but I think I just remember that point in my life as being, although I'm sure it was the view of a child, as being just perfect. Everything was in place in where it was supposed to be, and nothing. I started, even though it's probably not true, it's just child's perspective, I still think of that place as some sort of nirvana. I knew all the neighbors. They were warm Italian people. They gave me cookies, and nothing seemed to be terribly wrong.
Yeah.
And when I want to go somewhere where I just like where I have
You
this
need
sort
an
of
escape.
nirvana.
Yeah.
That's where I go. My parents were a part of the '80s sort of yuppie boom, and they moved off to a place called Flemington, New Jersey, which is the home of the Lindbergh trial.
Oh, okay.
So if you can see, I'm the history.
Right.
You can see there's a connection there. So I know like every major event that happened in every town that I lived in, and that's although I started showing signs of it earlier in Kenilworth, I started. Oh God, I'm going to do Crybaby's Corner here. I started showing signs of having trouble in school.
Yeah.
Not so much being a pest or acting out, but it was obvious that I couldn't pay attention. Something I still have a problem with today, to anything that was put in front of me. Stuff that would take even 6 and 7 year olds 10 minutes to finish. I couldn't finish in 2 hours, mostly because I was just constantly distracted.
I can almost see a class in 8th grade, 9th grade, Tommy C sitting there, a teacher trying to give a lesson. Well, let me tell you something, Mr. Rogers. No, Mr. Rogers. I can almost see it.
It was Miss Marinero.
No, Miss Marinero.
I don't think it was like that at all. It was more like, here's what you got to do. Okay, I'm going to do it. And then next thing you know, it's time to go to lunch.
Yeah. Well, so you became aware that you were having some kind of focus problems. Is that what eventually you would think led you to the Army, because of it would give you that type of structure? I mean, a lot of people would say...
Well, I don't know this, but I didn't join the Army until I was 28.
Yeah, it was a little bit later for you.
Yeah, it was later.
You lived the whole life, basically, before you joined the Army.
Through some of these experiences in school, and eventually this got worse. I mean, I ended up biting Miss Marinero over...
You bit a teacher? Like, literally bit? Like, nom bit?
I bit a teacher. Make a long story...
No, wait a second. This is a story I want to hear. I've never heard this one.
In first grade, I bit my teacher.
Oh, first grade. Okay. I was hoping it was like 11th grade.
No.
Oh, okay. That would make a much greater story.
By then, I was so numb that I don't think I could have honestly bit anybody.
Right.
But no, I remember it. I remember it very vividly. There were some kids... I remember this kid, Brian in particular, when they were dropped off of school, they would run to their parents because they didn't want to go to school. This is not really uncommon behavior for kindergartners and some first grade. Mom drops them off, I don't want to go, And I never did that before. I didn't do it in kindergarten, and this was early on in first grade. And I saw them do that, and some of them got to go home.
Yeah. Oh.
And I thought it might be kind of cool to try it myself. Anything. So I think it might have been October or November. So it had already been there a month. And I had planned to throw this sort of fit. Mostly because I never seen these kids getting any type of resistance. They just pats in the head and love and everything's going to be okay. At worst, they would cry in their seat. At best, they would actually get out of going to school that day. And so I planned this. I sat down.
This is first grade. This is quite a complex plan for first grade.
Is it? No,
I don't know. I think a lot of people. I might come off that way. It's kind of cool. I like it.
Cool as an adult, but I think it was just like, I don't have to go to school today.
Yeah.
Mom, which is way cooler, and she'll probably buy me shit. And so I think it just came down to that. Here's what I didn't expect. My mother waved goodbye. I remember the look in her face, and she was just like, saying goodbye to her kid, happy to see. And I burst into tears and ran, right? Mm-hmm. And I remember the confusion in my mother's face because I'd never done anything like this before. And I was sort of speared by Miss Marinero. And she stopped. And the thing is, I didn't expect to be handled that rough. And then when I tried to pull away, she closed her arms around me, which, by the way, she had every right to do. I shouldn't have been running around and doing all this stuff. But I got scared because, like I said, I didn't anticipate it. And I just almost, your parents say if some guy grabs you, you don't know them, you bite them.
Sure.
Get away from them. That's what you tell a child to do.
Yeah.
And I just instinctively, with no plan whatsoever, bit her arm. And not lightly either.
Yeah.
And I mean, she wailed.
Yeah, I bet she let go too.
Yeah, wailed. And now I'm really, really scared. And I don't remember too much of what happened afterwards, but I got to go home that day.
I'm sure you did.
And humiliation set in because I realized that now I'm the kid that bit the teacher.
Yeah.
And that may not sound like a big deal to an adult, but, you know, when I was constantly reminded about that.
Oh, sure. It's a label. Congratulations. You have been labeled.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is my first humiliation, and I certainly didn't want to hurt her. Yeah. And then I'd also heard things like she couldn't play tennis ever again, or maybe something.
Oh, my God.
Maybe she's thinking about suing my parents.
Oh, my God. You ruined the tennis career. Holy shit.
My parents were also worried that there was some kind of other abuse going on because I had never exhibited behavior like that before. Yeah. And, you know, this was really just the beginning of, I eventually was dragged back to school almost, I think, 2 weeks or a full week after. I missed so many days of school after that. Wow. And then I think the principal just had enough. And I remember being physically dragged over his shoulder to my first grade class. And eventually the humiliation went away. But I think it was also a sign that there was something wrong. And, you know, it was to show itself for years to come, with difficulties with teachers, and in some cases abusive teachers. And it sort of ended up in a private school after a while, where if I wasn't misbehaving before, I was put around a lot of other kids that were misbehaving.
So it was a hotbed.
That's, in my teenage years, I was what I like to call a careful troublemaker.
A careful troublemaker.
I got nailed by my parents, but I would do things that would, you know, put most parents in a hospital.
Yeah.
That I got away with. For anything from smoking pot at 13 and, you know, running around like a maniac with, you know, friends that were specifically picked by me that I knew that their parents weren't really going to scold them for anything. Yeah. So I got a little bad. And I wouldn't say that school straightened me out. Then I ended up in regular high school, which was great. Strangely enough, I guess I got turned around. I cheated my way through it. Probably don't have joking. Actually, can they take my diploma away from me?
I don't think so. I think the moratorium on that is set.
I did cheat through it. And this high school was just this wonderful social exercise for me. And I wouldn't say I was one of the popular kids in school, but I was definitely popular, and I had tons of friends. And that's a very good time in my life. And a lot of the social problems that I had in the private school and before that were gone. Yeah. You know, girls were coming into the picture. I wasn't that, although I had issues with girls as far as confidence issues. I was, you know, I always had a girlfriend or something like that. And that sort of ended like it does for a lot of so-called popular kids after high school, especially since I had no plans to go to college. And I probably couldn't compete anyway because I was cheating on most tests that I thought I could get away with.
Did you, at the time, have any creative outlets that you were trying to thrust yourself into?
Well, yes, I did. I've been playing guitar for over 20 years now. And, of course, you know, I had the big rock and roll dream. Yeah. And I was in several bands all the way up to my 20s.
New Jersey in the 80s as a teenager? Yeah, I wonder why you had that fucking dream.
I was born in 1976, so I was a teenager in the 90s. I graduated in 1995.
Okay. Well, so 14 in the 80s.
Yeah. But, yeah, I mean, it was I didn't think about it until I joined the Army when you mentioned New Jersey. I thought everybody grew up and had garage bands. And I don't think it necessarily because Bruce Springsteen and Bon Jovi were
Bon Jovi, that's who you remember.
That it was something unique to Jersey culture until I joined the Army, and then there was just only like one guitar player in the entire barracks. Yeah.
When you joined the Army, how much of I know it was a culture shock for me coming from the West Coast. How much was it a culture shock for you when you joined the Army and you got into this very unique, I'll say, group of people? I mean, people don't. It's almost like a prison setting in some forms because
it's a total. They like to refer to it as a control environment.
Yeah, which is what a prison is as well. But as far as the amount of diverse people,
sure,
that come into. I mean, I had a former Amish person in my barracks. You know,
That's wild. Yeah,
it's craziness.
Something you really get to meet too many folks, American Indians.
How did that influence you?
Oh, the cultural diversity, because I grew up 20 minutes from New York City.
Yeah.
So that wasn't shocking. I noticed that was, I wouldn't say difficult for kids from let's say tidy whitey or country whitey communities. What have you. I mean, there may have been an adjustment period and realizing that people are different and they feel different ways about people, and not everybody that disagrees with you or has different skin color than you is necessarily a horrible person. Yeah. You see that so many times in the Army.
Yes.
That people's kind of inhibitions and stereotypes are kind of washed away when you realize, like, yeah, this guy grew up differently, right, different skin color, but we pretty much have the same hopes and fears.
Sure.
As other people do my age. So I wouldn't say I wouldn't go as far to say the diversity had any kind of significant impact on me. And the reason I joined the Army is in my 20s, I was doing quite well working for internet companies and being a tech support person. And 9/11 happened.
Yeah.
And there was sort of a little bit of a recession in the New York area. A lot of people lost their jobs. And 56K modems were coming to an end, so there was nothing to troubleshoot anymore.
Yeah.
And I managed to get into the IT community by basically cheating. I didn't lie about anything.
This is becoming a theme.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't cheat, but I can talk.
Yeah.
And I managed to talk my way into a job that you needed a degree for, and I did quite well. And I had a very pretty girlfriend, and I was bought a new car, and things were going right. And then 9/11 happened, and then I actually, right after 9/11, I got another job that actually paid even more. It's like almost double my salary.
Oh shit!
And their 56K mo dial-up just went under, and so did I.
Yeah.
Because that was in 2002. 2 years later, I would be 27 years old.
So what opportunity did the Army present? I mean, like,
get the fuck out and get back into IT.
Oh, okay. Okay. I mean, you seem like a very calculated person. I especially to the outside viewer who probably listens to it, I think you're very calculated in what you do. You don't do things on whims very often.
No, and I wouldn't say it was a whim.
No, that's what I'm saying. I don't think this is a whim at all.
Calculated person, but I think I'm a logical person, and then if there is a point in time where you have to make major decisions, and I just did them, and I think I'm looking at them in past tense in sort of an analytical view.
Yeah.
So I'm presenting it as very well thought out, but I think it comes down to sort of like the story about me biting the teacher. Mm-hmm. It wasn't that I planned to do this and A, B, and C. It was just, I want to get out of going to school today. And the Army was... It
was just a culmination of events that just kind of led to it.
Yeah, you don't really have anything else go for you. Your career's been destroyed. Mm-hmm. And through fault of your own, fault of the economy, and fault of the growth of the internet. And the fault that I didn't get a degree. That I could never finish school. That I could never sit in a classroom. And that's something I still have trouble doing.
Yeah.
So it really just went up like that way. So I go into the Army. I had relatives in Vietnam, World War I, World War II. But I'm not like them. I didn't grow up with the type of discipline that maybe kids down south in the Midwest grow at. So if you want to talk about the culture shock that I had, it had nothing to do with the skin color or where somebody was from. It had everything to do with saying yes. That was the most difficult thing for me to learn, is just, yes, I'll do it. Because I was so used, and it was almost subconscious at this point, of explaining myself. Because you can do that in the regular world. You can just
absolutely.
Rant and explain yourself. In the military, they want it done.
Yeah.
Something that was very difficult for me to learn. I was pegged early on as somebody that wouldn't make it outside of basic training, probably unfairly so. And it ended up with an apology by a drill sergeant, which I wonder if has ever happened in the history of drill sergeants. I was taken privately, told that they didn't think I would make it. They thought that was doing me a favor. At one point, during some trouble in basic training, I was actually taken by this drill sergeant, a female drill sergeant, who I think was actually abusing me. And she took me. She was like, okay, you have to see the commander now. Why? Because of what you did. I was like, I didn't do anything. So the commander opens up this book, sign right here, we'll send you home. I'm like, I didn't ask to go home. In fact, I think I'm pretty much turning it around, and you could see female drill sergeant. She was just brewing and steaming. And he looked at me. He's like, well, if you don't want to go, why are you here? And he just slams this book. It's like, go back. I don't have a problem. And she disciplined me right afterwards.
So she was trying to get rid of you.
She was trying to get rid of me. I noticed she was wanting to get rid of me. One thing I noticed in the Army, as far as bigotry is concerned, and I'm not saying it's black on white bigotry. Yeah. I didn't realize, being from the East Coast, being a Yankee, I mean, let's face it, the Army's dominated, run by folks from the South.
Sure.
But I didn't think the Southerners were any more bigoted than anybody else. I always thought it was a myth, and it is a myth. And kind of country boys from the Midwest and California and Texas who have very different cultures than the ones I grew up with.
Different ideologies, different way of thinking.
Yeah, different ideologies, cultures, which I had always been respectful to. I'm not one of these people that say, oh, you're all sleeping with your sisters and you're backwards and you're beneath and you're all religious kooks. I'm not like that. I don't believe that, and I pretty much explained that earlier in this interview. My father went to school down south, and he said there's a lot of value in Southern culture, and I was always up that way, so I didn't feel any threat by them.
But this instructor,
and it wasn't a black-white thing. Mm-hmm. It was an East Coast South thing.
Okay. And
I didn't realize really that a lot of the maybe the Civil War, because this was a sort of a black on white bias. And then I started to realize it's not even just because I'm from the East Coast. It's because I'm Catholic. And even though I don't even subscribe to the Catholic religion, you can't get away from the fact that I'm East Coast and Catholic because of my last name.
Sure.
And I started to realize I ran into two black women like this that were a part of the what do they call it, the Northern Star? Masons.
Morning Star.
And
the Morning Stars.
I found out that even white Masons have a history of anti-Catholicism. Mm-hmm. For white males, not so much. I mean, well, what about the Spanish Masons? They tend to be all Catholic. It's a little different. I don't remember running into one Catholic general the entire time I was there that wasn't Hispanic. So I think, and when I wrote, why are you joining? And I told him I was a 9/11 witness. Mm-hmm. And that is what changed everything for me. That's when it got extra hard for me. In one sense, I'm very happy. In the other sense, I was treated differently than other people because of where I'm from. And you'd think, somebody who's white, who's privileged, who at one point his parents were making a lot of money during the 80s, who wouldn't experience this kind of bigotry. I was basically experiencing sort of a reverse bigotry. Yeah. But I'm glad I did, and I'm not a victim for it. I'm not going to do what other folks do. I overcame it. The troops in my unit saw that I was being treated unfairly, and initially they didn't like me because I'm kind of dragging them down, and I could understand that. But then they show that I'm not I get punched and I get up.
Yeah. Do you feel that you're often misunderstood? Do you feel that you're a misunderstood person generally?
I hate that because it sounds like some fucking teenage detachment.
Well, yeah, let's get away from the angst of it. But I mean, as people, we can often feel like we're misunderstood in the views that we talk about.
Misunderstand me, so no. I think I speak quite clearly. Mm-hmm. No, I don't. And I'm not just saying that just so I don't sound like a detached hipster. No, really, I'm not. I tend to blame the people that misunderstand me. If I speak clearly, or if I don't say something, then it's up to you to kind of, back up a question, to, ask me a question and not just kind of like prejudge.
Sure.
So when I don't cry, I don't go to Crybaby's Corner and say, oh, I'm so misunderstood. At first, I don't care if you understand me or not.
Yeah.
And I'm very competent with the way I speak in my command of the language. Mm-hmm. So I blame you.
Yeah.
And I don't care if you understand me.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't care. So yeah, no, I don't think I'm misunderstood. Okay. I think I'm not. I think I'm disliked because of my personality. I think it naturally is going to turn some people off, and I don't think that's not even their fault. I guess that's my fault, but I'm not willing to change, so I'll take with the heat that comes with that.
No, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think everybody has this where you kind of have to get to know a person before you automatically judge them. But we're kind of in this mode in society where, God, let's judge this book by a cover.
Yeah.
Without ever getting to know the person. And
well, that being said, too, I do think, it's a self-defense mechanism to judge.
Sure.
And it's not unreasonable. If you want to judge somebody right away, and sometimes maybe your judgment's right based on stereotypes, based on other things. But I think I'm not looking to befriend people like that, so to speak. And I look, I make judgments on people. I like, that guy looks shady. Right. I'm not walking down this street. And I think that's a self-defense mechanism. He could be the greatest guy ever. He could be the greatest guy ever. And I'd like to think that I would give people a chance that initially give me a bad vibe. But I do realize that I give bad vibes to people. I think it's my responsibility, but I also don't want to be somebody that grows up that pleases everybody.
Yeah, fair enough.
So I take responsibility for anybody I might rub the wrong way.
Okay.
Because I think I'm fair. I like to think that I'm fair. And if anybody wants to challenge me, I'll, explain myself. If you don't get me after that, then it's not going to.
It's just not happening.
It's not going to work. So it's you can kind of go on hating me or doing what you want. That's perfectly fine, up to you. It's not up to me to impress you.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that.
That's the thing with Solve from the Point. I've got so many recommendations, so many things I could do better, so many things to do this, and maybe they're even good advice. But I just, Shot from the Point is the only thing that I've ever done from my life.
Yeah.
That I did 100% my own way, and I do not tolerate. It's the only thing that I am actually dominant over. It's the only thing where I'm sort of an alpha male, because I'm really not in it. But that particular place, that's one place, because I saw John.
It's your baby. It's your baby.
Yeah, that's it. I like
your baby.
That's like it. I want to do it. I guess I want to do it on my terms, because. And that's not a good to make it on your own terms is the stupidest way to do fucking anything, is if you want to be really successful. But I rather and I'm not doing this because I'm a hipster. I'm doing this. I rather be more indie. I'm accepting the responsibility that if I don't sort of conform, that it's not going to grow. But if it does grow, it's growing on my terms.
It's on you completely.
It's on me.
You put the onus on yourself.
It's on me, and I control it, and it's up. And that's really. That's really where I'm going with this.
Yeah, that's completely fair. So you did your time in the military, and you decided to stay in Germany like I did. How did you go?
To.
Well, yeah, we had decisions that were kind of made for us because of our penises. Penises and our hearts. But
it was.
How did you go from transitioning out to actually creating a YouTube channel that I feel has been pretty damn successful? I mean, 600 subs in the hockey community.
I think everybody that has 100 more subs than the other guy thinks the other guy's successful.
Well, like, I'm growing something that is quite small, but I'm doing it in a pretty tight window so far. I'm 160 subs in a month and a half. I'm pretty proud of that. But you built this steadily over a good amount of time. And 600 subs within the hockey community, I think, is something to stand on and say, I've done this. It's a proud thing. How did you get there? How did you get?
You don't do it by yourself.
No, of course not. Yeah.
Networking, and of course, I had no idea about YouTube, and then I did a bit making fun of Joe Cronin, which I've never re-released, which I really should, because it's funny as hell. And we found that we had a lot. I asked him permission to use the clip, and we fucking made fun of him and busted his balls, maybe like walking up to the line. I didn't know, but it kind of we started talking offline, and we realized we had a hell of a lot in common. The radio interest, of course, and some of the same influences. And I like the fact that he was sort of unapologetic and unfiltered, and I just dug it. He
was your kind of guy.
Yeah, he was my kind of guy. I mean, I don't love everything he does, and he knows that. And I wouldn't do things the way he does all the time. But he had experience. He had other radio stations before, something called Stickham, which I wasn't familiar with, which I wish I was, because I wish I was knew something like that. He'd done radio shows before, and he taught me little things, like how to title, how to tag, how to thumbnail. This is how to create attention. This is what I am. I am an attention getter. I create attention. And some of these tricks were just like so obvious. I'm saying this is Shot from the Point, what have you. Like, no, put a hockey player. He goes, and then you title it in a manner that, like, okay, Martin Brodeur's last game as a goalie, and then you get people in, and then they can decide to leave or go as their plan, as they see fit. That was one of the things. Sort of, I named my channel and my playlist Shot from the Point, but the videos themselves I don't, and I'm sure some people could see that as being misleading, but I don't think so. I certainly talk about the topics that are in the video, Yeah, that is maybe an underhanded way to create attention.
If it is at all, it's very slight. And
Another way to, like, I don't say that this is a video about.
It's a marketing technique, if anything.
That's the way I see it. I don't think I'm breaking any rules. If I am, I'd change it.
You're not trying to deliberately deceive people. There's no.
I'm all about bending the rules, but not breaking them.
Sure.
Most creative people in the world bend them.
Yeah. It's very hard to live within the context of the very tight, restrictive rules that we have as a society. So yeah, absolutely. To be successful, sometimes you have to bend the confines of that sometimes.
I heard one YouTuber say that the reason video games are the top subscribed stuff on YouTube because YouTube itself is a video game itself.
Yeah.
It's a video game to gain attention to the public. And I thought that was such an interesting, I just heard this recently, I thought it was such an interesting way to do it. So like with any video game, there's tactics and strategies. I love games, not just video games, but I love strategy and I love radio. And I'll be honest with you. Jake Link said this to me. My longtime co-host. He
second co-host, but yes, long time.
Yeah, second co-host.
Well, we won't talk about the first.
He said something like, I think we were talking to Jeff one time. And he says, "Look, me and Tommy, we're just like attention junkies. We're attention whores." And at first, I kind of was, but resistant to it. But I mean, he's right. I mean, I like attention. I would be dishonest to say that I don't like attention. I even like negative attention.
Sure.
I enjoy ticking people off, and I enjoy making them laugh if I can do so. I don't think I'm a Bill Burr or great comedic talent, but I think something I learned from Howard Stern, who was a big influence on mine. He always said that the regular people were his best interviews, and that celebrities were boring because they knew how to deal with the media. And I think that's why I've taken regular folks in. And I always look at any team member or any contributor as something to mold into something. What's interesting about their personality and their takes on hockey are really secondary. It's what their personality brings to the table, and I think that can be molded. I think I noticed that talent with Jesse J. I really pushed hard for Joe to take Jesse. I think it was a great move. He's become very popular. I think he's one of the funniest guys in our whole community. I definitely saw that with you. You are this amazing guy that can just kind of go on and on forever and not say and duh and speak clearly, and you got the cool Chicago accent going on. And there are interesting things about your personality, about your personal situation, whether it be tragic, good or bad, or your history. I think those things are interesting. Same thing with Jake. He's sort of a wannabe comedian. He's done some comic stuff, and he certainly hasn't been like mainstream successful at it. But I think that's interesting. I think that's interesting that somebody tries to do something like that.
Sure.
Whether they're successful at it or not. I mean, these are human beings, and we all have our kind of interest in our hopes and our dreams and what have you. And I like people that are willing to put themselves out there and are absolutely fearless on when it comes to embarrassing themselves. I feel like I spent too much of my teenage years and my 20s trying not to embarrass myself. I remember Mike Tyson said when they were asking him about his new career in comedy and spoken word stuff like that. And he says, I'm successful because everything I've ever done in my life is I risk and I am willing to humiliate myself.
Sure.
Think about it. That's boxing too.
It is. You're putting it in the most stripped down form. Yes, absolutely.
And emasculated by another man in a worldwide arena, which he had been done, which sure happened to him at his way up, and then he was the king of the world, and then he was taken down.
Yeah,
and then when he got, his kind of his medical situation straight, he went into the other area that's interesting enough. Another Jake LaMotta did something very similar. I know he wasn't such a good guy, tied up with the mob and what have you.
A little bit.
LaMotta went to comedy right afterwards, and because they're not afraid to humiliate themselves, they're willing to risk humiliation. I want to be around. I want to surround when it comes to Shot from the Point or anything that I do radio wise or radio wise or whatever I do like entertainment wise or anything in the YouTube. I want to be surrounded by people that are willing to humiliate themselves or risk humiliation.
Potentially, absolutely.
Yeah.
But do you think that's the biggest factor for you? For doing this daily, day in, day out, is your willingness to put yourself on the line. Do you think that is the most important thing for people to kind of get over themselves when they have a great idea and push themselves to do it, just to kind of get over that unwillingness to put yourself out there.
Well,
and is that a hard thing to do for you?
Well, not anymore. I think I wasted a lot of my teens. I probably should have took more risks in bands instead of not willing to be with this one or that one. I remember when I met John Freeman, I made a decision that he wasn't going to be a good musician based on his look. Now he's an extremely talented musician, and he was one of these guys that was willing to risk humiliation. And I think I spent both of my 20s. And if anything, the Army beat that out of me because I was never more humiliated and taught off guard than the basic training.
Yeah.
So now I come out and I see people that aren't like that. I don't know if I'm trying to teach the world a lesson or encourage people or anything, but I definitely want to surround myself with people that are willing to risk personal humiliation, which is some of the, it's easy to kind of bet money, and of course it could be dangerous, but I mean, I think people would rather put their house up for fucking auction on a goddamn Blackhawks game rather than actually do something creative and risk somebody saying that's not that good or it wasn't funny and you're not that talented.
See, you're going to hate this. Or you might not. But you are really the epitome of what Creators Corner is about. Believe it or not, you are. You really are. Because you have that willingness to do things that I'm trying to get other people to do on this show.
Sure.
But so many people have talents, even if they're meaningless, even if they're menial, they're nothing. I think it's great that we as humans have this ability to create things in so many different ways. And that's what I want to display here. And you're a perfect example of that.
I suppose. I'm not here to teach anybody anything.
No, and nor should we ever want to.
It's the proper response. Well, as an artist, I think most artists feel that way. And I guess I don't consider myself an artist. I just I'm a wannabe YouTube figure at most, it's like Jake says, I'm very willing to take on attention. I'm very willing to do that because
which not a lot of people are.
No, I don't think so, and I don't think that people that choose not to do that are not interested. I don't think that makes them any lesser than me.
Yeah, and especially this anti-losing culture that we have now, where nobody wants to lose at anything.
The biggest losers are the ones that never actually get in the game.
Yeah, you miss 100% of the shots you never take.
Yeah, Mr. Wayne Gretzky.
Yeah,
those things, and you know what? I started to make connections in the military. I love the Rangers, and I love Mark Messier, and I never really understand why. Because he was truly fearless and not just, every time you step on the ice, you could break your back, you could be paralyzed. That's not just, it was the fearlessness of humiliation. Now, it helps when you're born with gobs and gods of athletic talent, like Messier was, but it was bigger than that. And his legacy is bigger than just being a potent goal scorer or a hard checking forward or a playmaker. His legacy has more to do, and everybody talks about leadership. Talks about Messier. They talk about leadership, which is not something that's like tangible. You can measure how many goals somebody's. You can measure.
But that ability to lead is something that is.
The ability to lead is sort of a subjective thing. It's one of these things it's there, but it's not. You can't measure it. You can't test the guy's blood and see it's there. It's just.
It's innate. Either you have it or you don't.
Yeah, you sort of have it and you don't. And I guess when I went to the military, I found out why I really love those guys, because they were doing something that no one really taught me or I wasn't capable of doing myself because I was so self-conscious. And I think after the military, in a weird way where it's not considered sort of a creative environment.
It's almost creatively stifling.
Yeah, I think my regular word was creatively stifling, and it is creatively stifling. But it gave me the confidence to risk humiliation on things that I loved, and I went back to things like music, and I think Chop from the Point probably started off with me playing guitar on Facebook, in a lot of ways, and then I heard negative and positive things, and I realized it didn't bother me all that much.
There you go.
That was it.
What's the most gratifying aspect of this process for you? Do you feel it's more gratifying to get a thought-provoking silence or a big, deep laugh, a resounding laugh? Like, the type of laugh I'm talking about.
I think it changes from second to second with me. I think that what we do
it's almost like a drug then.
Off the cuff, that Maybe something unexpected that I can't even think of or express in words right now. That would give me. I mean, I certainly get a kick. Even like, look, I upload hockey videos that I think that are cool. But A, to collect them, and B, because I know it's going to bring subs in.
Yeah.
You know. I actually, there's this guy I'm watching now. I'm thinking about it. His name's Powerplay CJ. He's managed to get 500 subs just by posting videos.
There you go.
And I think he's only about 17 or 18 years old from Boston.
Oh wow.
That's really impressive. I've done tricks. He did it straight up, and it's not great sound quality, and it's just basically him and the camera. And he's very well spoken, and he's being rewarded for it. I like to actually work with this kid. He seems to be great. So I mean, yeah, that's. I don't know. I think it's second to second.
Yeah.
Would I be a little more satisfied had I done it like CJ did?
Yeah. And
not been so pretty? Yeah, probably. But I guess that changes from second to second. Is there a big video, or if it's pissing off a reporter, or getting him on the air, or just creating a big laugh, or getting in an entertaining fight, or any of those things. Whatever gets the most hits, whatever creates the most attention, and from second to second and time to time, that could change relative. Look, when I play guitar, like I barely know any songs, but I can solo.
Yeah,
makes any sense. I can play guitar solos off the top of my head, and you know, like it's so funny. Like the stuff I had trouble with is actually the discipline, the stuff that the creative just kind of came naturally. You know, when I was taught E pentatonic scales and got a Stratocaster and put a fuzz pedal on it, I was comfortable. When I had to sit down and actually work out what chords to play and rhythm guitar and stuff like that, it's like a discipline, and I'm not very disciplined when it comes to learning stuff.
What do you think's the biggest lesson that you've had to learn to get to where you are now? To get to a, not even a success level, just to a point of being able to produce as much content as you do on a consistent basis. What lesson did you have to learn?
Don't quit when you have a bad show or make a mistake. That's the biggest lesson.
That's the biggest lesson.
Because that's what I did when I was younger. If I had a bad, so if somebody said something bad, then I was like, oh, fuck it.
So just not getting discouraged is...
Yeah. I think that's the biggest lesson I've learned.
That's a good answer. Good answer.
I think it's nearsighted. Maybe I should have learned more.
Yeah. No. I think, you know what? I think that's one of the most important lessons you can learn.
Yeah. Just like if it sucks, just keep moving.
Sure. Looking into the future, what is your biggest goal? Where do you want to take your channel? And not just your channel, but just your creative direction. What's your goal for the future?
I don't know.
Do you have like a dream get? Like if you could have somebody on the show.
I fantasize like everybody else. I fantasize that I get a radio job, but then reality comes crashing in. I live in another country. The type things I say are politically incorrect. Would be used with people with political agendas as being racist or homophobic or just plain out rude. You said about people not getting you. How about people deliberately, not getting you and tying you up to a label that just simply isn't true?
Or even worse, putting too much stock into the things you do say. Which can be just as bad.
Like, at the end of the day, it's just entertainment.
Yeah.
And I'm not one of these people believes, in which seems to be going around, that bad words create bad situations. I mean, didn't we get over that during the 80s with the Ozzy Osbourne suicide stuff?
You would have thought, huh?
That, you had all these wacky Christians running around saying, that the heavy metal records were making people kill themselves and drop out of society, and it just couldn't be further from the fucking truth. And the left at the time, which was a minority in mainstream culture at that time during the 80s, laughed at that, rightfully so. But now I'm seeing things like if you say the word pussy or cunt or something like that, even in a non-hateful manner as a joke, or even reading off that you are the problem.
Yeah.
That reason you say these words, and this is what makes society a bad place. I don't buy into that. And I think that's just a way to stifle free speech, the way the wacko Christians tried to do it in the 80s. But now you see lefties are on top, and they're dictating their religious dogma on the rest of us. Yeah. So anybody controversial, whether they would be, it's funny that the left has so just moved away from former allies like atheists.
Yeah.
And
no, that's a good point.
Atheists and libertarians, which they considered at one time to be sort of a political cousin. Now that they're sort of the wacko Christians and the wacko nuts, because if I say cunt or pussy or that guy is a jerk off or what have you, that's the reason girls are failing in school. Well, it's no more than Ozzy Osbourne's Suicide Solution.
Yeah, it's quite insane. Is that the most frustrating aspect of all of this for you, or is there something else that is more frustrating?
In it, I'll be perfectly honest with you, because I think I want to have that conversation with somebody. I do. I'll be honest with you. I would love.
You kind of like to rage against that machine.
I would love to humiliate somebody.
Sure.
That believes that, but I'm starting to realize that day's not going to come, because I think most of the people that are spewing this stuff know exactly what they're doing.
And those are hard people to embarrass too.
They know that they're politically dishonest. They know that they're lying, but this is a means to an end.
Yeah.
So I don't believe that, like, the only person that I could, like, beat in an argument is somebody that actually believes this sort of fundamentally or gospel. The useful idiots, so to speak. Those are the guys that I could beat. That are intellectually honest, that just are intellectually honest, but are just misguided.
Yeah.
I can beat them, but I'm certainly not going to beat somebody like what's her name, Anita Cartesian, who's a scammer and a liar, and that is using the gaming community to sort of bring in money, and is lying about her history with video games, and not being an expert, but just really to pour in a political narrative. Yeah. So no, I couldn't beat them, because these people know they're lying. They know they've
embraced it.
They're aware,
yeah.
And anybody will be smeared with the sexist, racist, political.
Sure.
Anybody that will be smeared as a criminal.
Sure.
I've seen situations with this guy was a Thunderfoot. I mean, you had these women, these radical feminists. I'm not certainly all feminists. Are smearing critics of them as sociopaths, which is one of the reasons I use that, and I put that on the Twitter account all the time, because I think it's funny, because I run into this myself. You criticize a far leftist, not your sane liberal, of course, that you must be a sociopath. You're not capable of empathy. That's I hope to have that conversation, but that's not really ridiculous, because what I've realized is those people are bad. I mean, really bad, like Ku Klux Klan, neo-Nazi bad. Really, really bad people. They're brown shirts. They're the type of students that during the 30s here in Germany used to shout down the opposition.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're just trying. It's just power and power only, which is frightening, because there's a lot more of them than there was when I was a kid.
Do you feel, because of those reasons, that it kind of restricts where Shot from the Point and you as a creator of these type of shows can go? Do you feel that's restricting?
Yeah, but
you welcome that.
I don't want to. I don't do what these other guys do. I'm playing on the playing field that I'm playing on, not the one that I want to play on.
Sure. So that being said, what's the evolution?
Of course, it's restricting. Of course, but I don't worry about things like that too much, because I stepped onto the playing field. I didn't make it. Yeah. And I think rather than sitting back and saying, well, it's not fair and everything's not fair and there's a left-wing bias, and there is, and stuff like that, then
you just try to drive on.
With the left-wing bias.
Yeah, you just try to drive on. So with that being said, with just driving on, what is the next logical evolution of Shot from the Point? Do you have another show up the channel somewhere? Do you have an idea that you want to hatch that maybe you've held back? Is there something else? How deep does the well of Tommy C go? I'm
going to probably be really honest. If Shot from the Point, I think at this stage, and I can honestly say this, that I'll always do it no matter whether it goes or not. And it's going to grow. It's going to grow certainly. To what extent? I don't know. Yeah. But if an employment opportunity popped up, which I don't think I'm doing it right to kind of get employment out of it, or circumstances in my life changed where I couldn't do it, I really think what I always wanted to do, and really what this spawn is really monetize this.
Yeah.
It might not be called monetize this, but that's the show I always wanted to do. I know someone would call it shock jock or things of that nature. But
I used to call it shock jock until I joined the show and I realized what the show actually was, because it's not a shock jock show. I think that's a wrong.
What to call it? But I think that if I had a greatest creative accomplishment, it was being a part of that.
Yeah.
And I guess that's where I think maybe it will go. And I think
that is the evolution.
But I don't know that for a fact. And I'm, you know, I used to listen to this guy. His name was Joe Frank. And I used to be a rejecter of the word destiny. And until I heard this, I think destiny is not a path that you have to go down. Like you're just sort of like stricken to kind of walk down this one path, and you're going to get to A to B at the beginning of your life. But destiny is rather a current that you can kind of swim against and back and forth, and nobody really knows where that current's going. But you do have a certain amount of free will to kind of move left and right. But eventually, you're going to end up in the same place.
Sure, destiny is the X on the treasure map.
Sort of, but you can't see the X.
Yeah, okay. That's
you don't know where it is. You don't know where it is, and I think that it's going to go where it's going to go, and I'm going to swim along with the current.
You certainly can't see the path. There's no question about
I don't know. I think maybe that's my greatest weakness is because people that get involved in this, I notice like Ray William Johnson and things that they get involved with clear ideas for the future, clear wants to go into the entertainment industry, clear objectives. And as I've said through most of this interview, I've never really worked well in that environment. That's sort of any kind of school of thought. So I've done a lot better just not letting things happen. It's not like I don't prep for my shows. It's not like I don't work hard on them. But I have no clear objective, and it's just sort of a trip.
Do you have any major regrets?
It might not be the wisest thing to do, but it's the way that I like doing it. So.
Sure. Do you have any major regrets things that you've said on air that you just kind of wish that you would? Go ahead and tell me that story. I
regret, for entertainment reasons and trying to be funny, I regret saying horrible things about Marion Gabrick that were undeserved. I'm sure he never heard it, but it was just when I listened back to it.
Just the fact that you put it out there.
It was so phony. It was so fake. It wasn't me. I've said things that were considered horrible that I have no regrets about, but that was one of them. Yeah. Because it was just like, he wasn't scoring, and then I said all these horrible things about him that were like totally uncalled for. But it wasn't because I didn't really hate Marion Gabrick, but I wanted to seem like I was hating Marion Gabrick to promote my show at his expense.
Yeah.
And it wasn't true. I didn't feel that way.
Okay.
I didn't feel that way while I was doing it. And then I think I went on the air. It's like, remember the little rant I did about Marion Gabrick? I remember Jake was there, and I was like, you're never going to hear it again because it was bullshit. And I'm never going to do it again. And I remember Jake was kind of laughing at me, and he's like, you know, he's doing that clip with that kid when he found out he was traded from the Rangers. Now, in fact, I think I was glad he was gone.
Yeah.
You know? And I really didn't care whether he stayed or not at the end of the day. You know, I wished him the best, to be perfectly honest. I just said some rotten things because he was underperforming for the Rangers. And, you know, like sport assholes do in New York City.
So you kind of felt like one of those guys.
I was breaking my own rules.
Yeah.
You know, I could have just said it like, look, Gabrick had to go. He wasn't really performing. And, of course, he went and turned it into something, and he won a Stanley Cup last year. And that's how I really feel about things like that.
So on the opposite side, if you had to pick a moment, what's your most proud moment that you've had on the air?
What's that?
On the opposite side of it, what's your most proud moment that you've had on air? What magic has happened that you're just going, my God, this is good?
Aggravating Ryan Lampert. I'm dead serious. I'm not even aggravating.
No.
Mainstream. You know, going toe to toe with the guy that's college educated, that thinks that's an elitist, that thinks he's better than me. You know, I'm a guy who cheated his way through high school, and I went toe-to-toe with him, and I did a damn good job.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
And he knew I did a damn good job. He never retweeted it. The idea was to go on to humiliate me because I was just some dumb idiot.
And he couldn't get the job done.
I stood toe-to-toe with him. You know, we talked about Henrik Lundqvist's stance or lack of stance on gay marriage. And I thought it was ridiculous that he was holding him to this ridiculous political standard. And I think he may have gotten the better of me. No point that he humiliated me in the beginning of the argument, mostly because I'm not anti-gay marriage.
Sure.
But what I am anti is holding everybody to be pro-gay marriage standard. which I didn't do as well on. So I'm like arguing about something that I sort of believe in, but at the same time, I don't think. I mean, if you don't believe in gay marriage, that's all fine and dandy with me. Yeah. And I think that he was forcing his political views and attacking Henrik Lundqvist,
which is something that I know just
because
bugs
he
the shit out of you.
Political correctness map.
Yeah.
You know, and he was being punished for it. And I like Hank, and I think he can express his advocacy for gay marriage, however, whenever he wants. Now, I think maybe he did a little better on me. On the other point of view, where I got a little more personal with him, was his attack on Gregory Campbell, who blocked his shot, where he went on that this is a symptom of hockey culture being insane. When I know that these guys are professional athletes, and I know the adrenaline is running through, and they're not thinking maybe clearly for their future career because of the culture and because team comes first. And there was this sort of outpouring, not just in Boston, but all over the world about how sort of heroic, because it was a symbol of heroic behavior, a symbol of selfless male sort of traditional macho behavior. And of course, Ryan Lampert had a fit over it. And I pointed out that he called him an idiot, a moron. And I asked him if he was jealous of these guys. Is it difficult to see Gregory Campbell with attractive women? Is it difficult to see Gregory Campbell that he's considered a hero? Do you think people like yourselves to consider yourself intellectuals and reporters and people that make their living through their academia? Do you think they're better than Gregory Campbell? And boy, he collapsed like a deck of fuck.
And that just made your soul smile.
I've been horrible, and I do dislike this man tremendously. But at that time, I didn't. It was more of a work to generate controversy. When I talked to him off the air, I realized what a jerk off he really was. Sure. It wasn't just an act. I mean, I said, you know, good luck with your career and thank you very much. And he was just, you could really hear the anger. And he was like, why would you say good luck with your career? That's bizarre. I'm like, well, I don't know. I think that's what you're supposed to say.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it
just shows that he had a detachment there.
It shows a certain amount of respect, but he didn't have any respect for me, so that's why it was so confusing.
Yeah.
He was supposed to come on there and humiliate me, and he didn't do it.
Couldn't get the job done.
And by the way, that was not the most successful thing. That did not bring a lot of attention to my channel.
No, but it brought you the most personal satisfaction.
That was probably not the most successful thing, but it's the thing I'm proud of the most.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've hit a pretty good point to wrap this thing up. Where can everybody find you? Let's start there. Where can everyone? We'll start the wrapping up process there. Tell everybody where you are, what you do, so we can get all that out there.
You can check the description box below and click on the Shot from the Point channel. And if you're a hockey guy, I highly recommend it. I also do. You put this one in there too. Shot from the Point Poker, which is a poker website.
Absolutely, I'm involved. I have to put it in.
Yeah, put that in there. I think that's just a little side project for me that I'm not taking terribly seriously. But I'm going to make dramatic poker hand videos, which I think I've done a pretty good job with. Yep. And you know, kind of put music in there and what have you. I don't expect that to go anywhere because it's not my intellectual property. And then broadcast guys playing poker badly on Stars, Poker Stars. But you can Shot from the Point Hockey, and you click on Shot from the Point Hockey, sub us. I do upload videos from time to time as far as highlights that I find mildly interesting. And then, of course, we do Shot from the Point Live, 3 p.m. Sundays, Eastern Standard Time. And we do a show called Morning Ice, where we review the day's events, which comes out at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Yep. You look, man, you are the catalyst for this community that we have. Joe Cronin, Jeff Huffman, Jake, Dave Rose. You really are. You've been at the center of all of it. And I don't know if you...
Somewhere, yeah.
I think you're aware of that. I'm not sure if everybody is...
I'm a big player in the Joe Rose. There's no doubt about it.
I'm not sure how aware other people are. So I wanted to take this opportunity to kind of put the onus on that for a moment. Because I really had a hard time getting myself going. And you didn't ever have to say anything to me. But because you were my friend, seeing you doing stuff made me get off my ass because, for one, we're competitive with each other.
Sure.
On a very extreme level.
It's healthy.
It's very healthy. I don't think it's unhealthy at all, at least where we take it.
Sure.
So from a personal aspect, I want to say thank you for what you've done for not only me, but for everybody in the community. I think it's more important than you might even know. So I appreciate you being on the show. Thank you for being so open and giving everybody who might not know certain things about you a deeper inside look. I think that we really hit some good points here, and I think it was very entertaining. You did a great job as always, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. I do appreciate that as well, Dave. It's well said, I think.
Thank you.
But I'm afraid, like if I say that, it's like, then you look, he really is a sociopath.
No, not at all.
I appreciate that, and I hope that I hope I gave people, I think I certainly didn't give anybody a career, but who knows? Maybe we'll end up seeing. I'd love to see Jeff on TV one day. He probably has the best shot. He's going to broadcasting school.
And he's young.
I help expose people to a really rewarding hobby, and as far as like in the community, so to speak, I think I take if there was a second thing I took the most pride in, then that was it. Yeah. And then it was exposing people to do something they didn't think they could even do.
Awesome. Well, make sure everybody checks out everything that Tommy's doing, and everybody in the community. This is very important, and I'm glad that you were here. I hope it gets more people to get off their asses and get on this show, because I think it's a really good outlet to kind of just put what you do out there and put the scope of public awareness on what you do. So
thank you very much.
All right, good sir. Thank you. We're going to wrap that up. This is Creators Corner number 4. We'll be back next week with, I believe, Ed Crowley's music career. So that should be very interesting.
Who's next?
My co-host on the Raw Review, the kooky British man himself, Ed Crowley, who's so wonderfully crazy. And he's a musician, and he's going to be on next week.
What? That's Australia.
Crikey! Yeah, that's not British.
Yeah, correct. I was watching something on Tasmanian tiger, so that's why I'm fucking...
The Tasmanian tiger. Yeah, that's right. So thanks for joining us, everybody. This is Creators Corner number 4. Make sure you check out everything that's going on at Dead on Dave Productions. Subscribe, share, and like, and we will catch you next time. Thank you.